Worker mocks Jeff Bezos at Amazon. The CEO's reaction leaves him jobless. You won't believe what just happened. The warehouse was cold, its towering shelves stacked with boxes that seemed to stretch endlessly into the distance. The fluorescent lights flickered slightly, casting a harsh glow over the rows of exhausted workers moving like clockwork. Among them was Ryan Carter, a man who once had dreams bigger than this place. Dreams that now felt like distant memories buried beneath long shifts and an aching back. Ryan was in his early 30s, yet the stress of life had aged him beyond his years. His uniform, once crisp, was now faded and wrinkled. His boots had scuff marks, a testament to countless hours spent walking through the endless aisles of Amazon's fulfillment center. He wasn't a bad worker, just one who had lost his way. Life hadn't been kind to him. A failed business, a marriage that ended in heartbreak, and crushing debt had led him here. 5 years ago, he had taken a risk, invested everything into a startup that he believed would change his life. But bad luck, wrong timing, and a few bad decisions sent him spiraling. The company folded, and soon after, his wife left. She said she couldn't handle his constant failures. Since then, Ryan had been stuck, moving from one dead-end job to another, each one slowly chipping away at whatever self-worth he had left. He had taken this warehouse job out of desperation, convincing himself it would be temporary. But temporary turned into months, then years. The work was soul-crushing, long hours, little recognition, and supervisors who barely acknowledged his existence unless something went wrong. It didn't help that he had developed a bitter attitude, masking his disappointment in life with sarcasm and resentment. He mocked the motivational posters that hung on the break room walls, calling them corporate fairy tales meant to keep workers compliant. There was one thing he held on to, a crumpled, yellowing business card from his old company, tucked inside his wallet. The edges were frayed, the ink slightly faded, but the name printed on it still felt like a ghost from a life he barely recognized. It was a reminder of the man he used to be, the man who had ideas, ambition, and hope. Some nights, he'd take it out and just stare at it, wondering if that version of himself was gone forever. His co-workers weren't exactly friends, more like acquaintances he tolerated. Some were like him, just trying to get by, while others were younger, still believing they could climb the ladder if they worked hard enough. Ryan had no such illusions. He had given up on dreams. All he had now was a sharp tongue and a growing resentment toward the billionaires who sat in glass offices, while workers like him broke their backs to keep the machine running. That's why, when whispers started spreading that Jeff Bezos himself was visiting the facility, Ryan couldn't help but laugh. "The man in the spaceship is coming down to visit us mortals," he muttered under his breath. The other workers were buzzing with nervous excitement, but Ryan saw it as nothing more than a publicity stunt. He knew the CEO wouldn't care about people like him, but what he didn't know was that this encounter would change everything. Ryan was stacking boxes onto a conveyor belt when he heard the commotion. The usual monotonous rhythm of the warehouse had been replaced with hushed whispers and stolen glances toward the entrance. A group of executives in polished suits had just walked in, and at the center of them, **** Jeff Bezos. ***. Ryan almost rolled his eyes. He had seen the man countless times on TV and articles and on the cover of magazines. The founder of Amazon, a billionaire, the guy who flew into space while workers like him couldn't even afford a decent lunch. To Ryan, Bezos wasn't a person. He was an idea, an untouchable figure so far removed from the struggles of everyday workers that it felt laughable to see him walking through the warehouse like he actually belonged there. Workers straightened their backs, their tired expressions suddenly replaced with forced smiles. Managers stood stiffly, eager to impress. But Ryan? He didn't care. He kept working, pretending not to notice the entourage passing by. That was until he heard a voice, ***, calm, controlled, and surprisingly warm, ***. How's your shift going? Ryan turned his head slightly, expecting to see a supervisor, but instead, he was looking directly at Jeff Bezos. For a moment, Ryan was caught off guard. Bezos wasn't as robotic as he had imagined. His presence was powerful, but not in an intimidating way. More like someone who had seen the world, understood people, and knew exactly how to hold a conversation. His posture was relaxed, hands in his pockets, eyes sharp but not cold. Ryan smirked. Oh, just living the dream. Bezos chuckled, the kind of laugh that didn't feel forced. I've heard that one before. Ryan wasn't sure how to respond. He had expected the CEO to just nod and walk away, but he didn't. Instead, Bezos looked around the warehouse, then back at Ryan. How long have you been working here? Ryan wiped his hands on his uniform. 2 years. Do you like it? That question almost made Ryan laugh. He glanced at his co-workers, who were all eavesdropping while pretending to work. His usual sarcastic answer was at the tip of his tongue, but something about the way Bezos asked made him pause. It's a job, he finally said. Not much room to dream here, though. Bezos studied him for a moment, as if he was trying to read between the lines. Dreaming is important, Bezos said simply. What did you want to do before this? Ryan's jaw tensed. He wasn't expecting this conversation to go in that direction. No one had asked him that in years. I had a business once, he admitted, feeling the weight of the words as they left his mouth. Didn't work out. Bezos nodded, his expression unreadable. Failure's a good teacher. Ryan scoffed. Yeah, well, it also makes a terrible roommate. That made Bezos smile. I failed a lot too, he said. Before Amazon, I had a stable job in finance. Everyone thought I was crazy for leaving it to start an online bookstore. They told me it would never work. Ryan knew the story, of course. Everyone did. But hearing Bezos say it in such a casual, matter-of-fact way made it feel different, more real. For a split second, Ryan felt something unexpected. A flicker of curiosity. So, what do you think? Bezos asked. Ryan frowned. About what? About where you are now. About where you want to be. Ryan hesitated. No one had ever put it that way. For the past few years, he had been stuck in survival mode, just getting through each day without thinking about the future. But now, standing in front of one of the richest men in the world, the question suddenly felt heavier. Before he could answer, Bezos glanced at his watch. I should get going. It was nice talking to you, Ryan. And just like that, he was gone, leaving Ryan standing there, feeling like he had just woken up from a strange dream. But something about the way Bezos looked at him lingered. Asterisk, asterisk, like he knew something Ryan didn't. Asterisk, asterisk. Ryan didn't think much about his conversation with Jeff Bezos after it happened. It was just another day in the warehouse. Another meaningless interaction with someone who would forget his name the second they walked away. But something strange happened the next morning. When Ryan arrived for his shift, he was immediately pulled aside by his supervisor, a man who rarely paid him any attention unless he was in trouble. Carter, you're needed in the main office. Ryan frowned. The main office? He had never been called there before. It was the kind of place where higher-ups made decisions about people like him, never a place where someone like him actually stepped inside. He walked through the glass doors cautiously. The air smelled different in here. Asterisk, asterisk cleaner, more expensive. Asterisk, asterisk, a receptionist looked up from her desk and gave him a polite smile. Right this way, Mr. Carter. Mr. Carter? Since when did anyone call him that? Confused, Ryan followed her into a sleek conference room. A man in a tailored suit was waiting for him, sitting at the long polished table with a folder in front of him. Ryan Carter? The man said with professional but friendly tone. Ryan nodded slowly. Yeah. The man smiled and slid the folder across the table. Jeff Bezos asked me to give this to you. Ryan's stomach dropped. What? He hesitated before picking up the folder. His fingers felt numb as he flipped it open. And then, for the first time in years, his breath caught in his throat. Inside was a fully funded business grant. His name was printed in bold letters at the top, followed by an approval for $250. 000. To restart his company. Ryan's vision blurred. He read the words once, twice, 3 times, but they didn't make sense. His hands trembled as he looked up at the man across the table. This isn't real. This has to be a mistake. The man shook his head. No mistake. Mr. Bezos personally approved it. He said every entrepreneur deserves a second chance. Ryan felt like the air had been knocked out his lungs. His heart pounded in his chest as he stared at the paper, his past failures flashing through his mind. The years of struggle, the nights spent wondering if he had wasted his life, the bitterness he carried like a shield, asterisk, asterisk, all of it shattered in an instant. Asterisk, asterisk. Bezos remembered. He actually listened. Ryan could barely speak. He ran his fingers over the paper, the weight of it sinking into his bones. Why would he do this? He whispered. The man simply smiled. Because he sees something in you. For the first time in years, Ryan didn't have a sarcastic remark. No bitterness, no anger, just a feeling he had long forgotten. Hope. Ryan sat in his beat-up car outside the warehouse, the grant paperwork still clutched in his hands. He had read it over and over, tracing the letters with his fingertips, yet it still didn't feel real. $250, 000, enough to rebuild everything he had lost, enough to dream again. But one question kept gnawing at him. Why? Why would Jeff Bezos, a man worth billions, who had no reason to care about someone like him, go out of his way to do this? Ryan needed answers. His fingers hovered over the email at the bottom of the document, the one labeled Direct Contact JB. It felt ridiculous to think the email actually belonged to Bezos himself. But before he could second-guess himself, Ryan typed out a short message. Subject asterisk, thank you, but why? Mr. Bezos. I don't know what to say. I'm beyond grateful, but I need to understand. Why me? Why would you do this? Ryan. He hit send, doubting he'd ever get a response. But 5 minutes later, his phone vibrated. A new email from Jeff Bezos. Subject, a second chance. Ryan, failure doesn't mean the end. When I was building Amazon, there were moments I thought I had made the biggest mistake of my life. There were risks I took that almost destroyed everything. I've lost millions on failed ideas. But I had one advantage. People who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. That's why I did this. Because I see something in you. The way you spoke about your old business, the frustration in your voice, it wasn't just bitterness. It was passion buried under disappointment. I don't give handouts. I give second chances to people who are willing to fight for them. This is yours. Make it count. Jeff. Ryan stared at the email, his vision blurring. Jeff Bezos had failed too. He had doubted himself. He had nearly lost everything. And now, the richest man in the world had just told Ryan that he believed in him. A lump formed in Ryan's throat. He closed his eyes, gripping the paper in his hands. For the first time in years, he wasn't just surviving. He had a future. Asterisk, asterisk. Tears welled in his eyes, but this time, they weren't from regret. They were from hope. 6 months later, Ryan stood in front of a gleaming glass storefront, his name proudly displayed on the sign above the entrance. Carter Tech Solutions. It still felt unreal. The last few months had been a whirlwind. With Bezos' grant, Ryan had rebuilt his business from the ground up. No longer stuck in a warehouse, lifting boxes for someone else's fortune. He was now the owner of his own company. And this time, he did things differently. He hired people who had struggled like he had. People who had been told their dreams were out of reach. He became the kind of leader he had wished for when he was at his lowest. As he stood outside his new office, watching his employees file in for the day, his phone buzzed. A new email from Jeff Bezos. Subject, just checking in. Ryan smiled as he opened it. Ryan, I hear Carter Tech is making waves. I knew you had it in you. Asterisk, asterisk. Keep building. Keep proving them wrong. Asterisk, asterisk. Success isn't just about money. It's about never letting failure define you. Proud of you. Jeff asterisk, asterisk. Ryan exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of everything that had brought him to this moment. The years of struggle, the failures, the bitterness, none of it mattered anymore. Because now, he wasn't just another worker stuck in a dead-end job. He was proof that second chances could change everything. As he stepped into his office, he couldn't help but think back to that day in the warehouse, when he had mocked a man he thought was out of touch. Now he understood, and as he looked out at his employees, the people he was now helping, asterisk, asterisk, he silently promised to pay it forward, asterisk, asterisk.